Today is September 3rd. We have two pieces of last Epoch news to talk about. I did not make a post individually for the updated visuals, what you see on the screen here, because it's not particularly interesting unless you scroll all the way to the bottom and see that they also split some extra uniques. But I was sick yesterday, so we're going to do two news posts in one video right here. You can scroll through this. I'll have this linked in the description of the video as well in case you missed it on Reddit or social media or on their forums. But there's some new pretty stuff. They've reworked some of the visuals for the areas. Let's hit Control FF. Word of the wise, if you're on this website, go Control FF to search. Don't use Control F, it's nonsense. Let's see. All right, good. They talk about it. I wanted to make sure that they called this out particularly. Like, Chapter 1 has a new overhaul. Sometimes you skip Chapter 6. You don't always do Chapter 6. If you're a speedrunner, if you're a hardcore gamer, and you oftentimes skip Chapter 6 altogether, don't. Chapter 6 is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend that you make a run through the campaign in order to see all the new stuff. You will not regret it. It's very, very pretty. In any case, let's scroll down to the very bottom of this news post. Get to the juice. Scroll past these guys, because they look very good. But I guess in-game bug reporting. If you hit escape, you report a bug right there. Awesome. Love it. Towns are turned back on. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but what about this? What about the good stuff? What about the reason you actually clicked on this video? There are 3 new unique items. Okay, there's actually way more than 3 new unique items. You've seen 2 of them already. You've seen the boots that triple bleed damage if the enemy's moving. The PoE bleed boots. You've also seen the... what is that? The other item is the... Acid Flask deals more damage, consumes a potion, something, something, something. The one that I've already written off in my mind because it says the word Acid Flask on it. You've seen that chess piece already. Ho Ching Ming, welcome back for 3 months even. I appreciate that. By the way, September's going on. You want to sub on Twitch? Get a discount, baby. These are 3 new unique items. So, there's going to be many more than this, but let's talk about these 3. The Cleaver Solution is an S tier pun. It's pretty clever if you ask me. This thing looks hilarious. It's level 27 item. You can put it on fairly early on. It's a bad base. Got generic chance to bleed on hit. Your intelligence is equal to your strength. I love it. Intelligence equal to your strength. +5 to strength. We don't know what the roll is to this. Could be a min roll. Could be a max roll. +43 physical damage. Melee physical damage. More damage to bleeding enemies. Not more physical damage. Not more melee damage, just more damage to bleeding enemies, and +1 to all skills. The +1 to all skills is pretty generically strong. It gives you both offense and defense, helps you juice up your skills to level 25, 26, 27, depending on how ham you're going. Compare that to something like the new Weaver's Will Relics that give you +1 to all skills, or compare that to the Omnis Amulet, which also gives you +1 to all skills. +1 is pretty valuable. This is level 27 item. We don't know the LP level on this. If you're watching live in chat, make sure you type in !LP so you can see what LP level refers to. It's a relative value that describes how hard it is to get an item with LP. We don't know the LP level of this yet, but it's cool. It's so cool. The first couple things that come to mind are, 1, with Stormcrows often reward you for having intelligence, and you can have like some ward retention stuff going on there. Oftentimes you would see people unethically snapshot their gear to get a bunch of minion stats and intelligence and then use the Stormcrows and swap that gear off. This is pretty interesting with Stormcrows as a Primalist, because Primalists also get a lot of strength on them. The other thing that this reminds me of is, you know, intelligence equal to your strength. You could be a werebear and get +1 spell damage per strength in the werebear skill tree, and then stack a bunch of strength, and then you get intelligence equal to your strength, and then you have a fragment of the Enigma in your offhand, and you attack with swipe. I don't pretend to know whether that's good or not, but this item has a lot of brewing potential. I've hosted sweet build contests in the past. I've got all the archives on YouTube and on my Discord. If you want to see what people have like come up with for like underused unique items, unique items in the past, this seems like the kind of item that we might do a build contest for, because it's very, very cool. But enough on that. Let's go to the second one here. The second one, this is a Rune Bolt kind of thing. So Rune Bolt is a skill that only a Rune Master has access to. So this is basically Rune Bolt only. Or sorry, basically Rune Master only. It is a bad base, only 6 spell damage, but it makes up for that with the explicit plus 51 spell damage, plus 3 to Rune Bolt. If you haven't seen Rune Bolt's skill tree, I briefly described it in a YouTube video. I'd be surprised if there is a main, like a Rune Bolt main source of DPS build. Rune Bolt definitely seems like something that's more catered to giving you buffs and giving you mana regeneration, or like mana refund. I'd be surprised if there's if there's an actual DPS build with Rune Bolt. If there is, it probably uses this. Let's keep reading. Rune Bolt's element always matches the last skill you used directly that had a single elemental tag. Weird. Rune Bolt that have a different element to the last Rune Bolt you cast grant you a stack of Numeromancy, up to 5, and refresh the duration of all existing stacks. So basically, while you're in combat, you have all of these buffs. Plus 5 spell damage per stack of Numeromancy, so 25 flat damage there, and then 25 cast speed as well. Depending on what the LP level of this is, you get this with 1 LP, you get this with 2 LP, you could have basically a double cast speed wand. That's a good thing to think about, but only for Rune Bolt. What else is relevant about this? I think the other relevant thing about this is it says Rune Bolts that have a different element. So you need something that makes the Rune Bolt swap elements to a different element. I don't know exactly what the Rune Bolt skill tree does because there's some wonky stuff that goes on in it. There are nodes in Rune Bolt that randomly change the runes above your head. Does that interact profitably with this? I don't know. So the finer details of how to make this work as automatically and as brainlessly as possible, yet to be determined because I forget. But it's cool. I like it. Yeah. I don't know. I'm definitely interested in trying to do a DPS build of Rune Bolt, but I'm a little bit skeptical of it right now. In any case, here's the third one. For the astute among you, you will realize that there are already some very competitive helmets for mages. There is a Fractured Crown, which may be getting changed. We'll see about that. There is the... What's the helmet called? Twitch chat, you gotta help me out. It's been a while since I played a mage. There is the... what's the Ellie Nova helmet called? You're gonna make me look it up, aren't you? Alright, let's go look up the Ellie Nova helmet. The Ellie Nova helmet that's been in the game for longer than I've been playing this game. Let's go make sure we know what we're talking about. The Ashen Crown. Here it is. The Ashen Crown allows you to cast on your cursor instead of casting around your character. So it saves you many, many skill points and allows you to do like a lightning-only version of it. So Ashen Crown is like the de facto thing and it has a lot of good defenses built into it. But this is the alternative to it. So this is plus 4 to Ellie Nova, which is huge. Increased AoE. It's always tri-elemental, so you're not specializing in fire, cold, or lightning. Elemental penetration per uncapped total elemental resistance. Uncapped means without respect to the cap. So if you only have 10 total resistance, this will give you 1 elemental penetration. It does not need to go above the cap to count for this. And the last is less damage taken from ignited shock or chilled enemies. This also overlaps with the less damage taken modifier from the Rune Master skill tree to even double up on this condition here. They should be multiplicative. I would be shocked if they were additive and ignited and chilled. But it's a cool thing here. We know that there's a chess piece that was added 1 or 2 patches ago that kind of encourages you to do like a self-cast, non-channeled version of Ellie Nova. So people have tried to make that work. I'd be surprised if that's good enough alone. But with the helmet, maybe there's some cool tri-Ellie stuff that you can do here. That does it for the unique items. To me, much more interesting is the second bit here. So let's click on the Sunday post, and we'll discuss the rune prisons along with some new crafting. So what are rune prisons? Rune prisons are basically essence monsters. If you've ever played Path of Exile in the past, It's an opt-in encounter during both the campaign and the end game of Last Epoch. You click on it, the mage pops out. He's kind of like the Shade of Erebus, where he has a whole bunch of skills that he can select from, and he selects 2 or 3 of those skills and attacks it with those. They're all like basic Rune Master looking skills. He was extremely deadly in the early access that I had access to. He is probably going to be significantly toned down. Probably not going to be one-shotting you. In any case, let's read this and see what's going on. An area we felt is in need of improvement with respect to Last Epoch's endgame is the moment-to-moment gameplay of completing an echo. This isn't something we feel can be fixed by any single chance. However, we're still looking to improve the aspect of gameplay piece by piece. By introducing more random events that happen in Echo, something that encourages you not to just go from point A to point B and TP out as soon as possible, which is what I do. It can help to reduce the sameness of each Echo and feel like a much more dynamic experience. That's why we have Rune Prisons. Rune Prisons are a special type of encounter you can find in a Monolith Echo as well as during the campaign areas. While making your way through the world and eras of Eterra, you may find yourself coming across a large floating prison. This will show up on your minimap. You will not miss it. It's very obvious. By clicking on the Rune Prison, you will unleash the Exiled Mage held within, who will become immediately hostile to you and any enemies in the area. These Exiled Mages will spawn with a random set of abilities, so you never quite know what you're going to be fighting. Let's keep going. I do feel like they use movement skills a little bit too much. To me, it's kind of felt hard to target them because they move so much. I will also be leaving that feedback. You can leave that feedback if you want to. If you manage to defeat the Exiled Mage, you will have an experimental item and potentially, at higher levels, a Rune of Research. So an experimental item, real quick. This is an item that drops with a drop-only modifier on them. They're being introduced this patch. These are items that at first glance may appear to be a standard magic, unique, or exalted item. However, on closer inspection, you'll notice that they have a very special affix. Before we read the next sentence, I want you to see this. They might appear to be a normal magic or a normal unique or a normal exalted item. There are unique items that are experimental. You are going to fall in love with them. These experimental affixes cannot be crafted or found through normal means, and they're typically only found on items dropped by an Exiled Mage. Typically. We'll get to that in a second. So here's our first example of one. This is a drop-only affix. You cannot make a shard of this affix. You can't take this affix on and then put it on somewhere else. If you scour this item, if you Rune of Removal it, you will not get a shard to put it somewhere else. So this is minion damage, which is a pretty good roll of minion damage. We don't know the tier of this in particular though. But it says, minions teleport around you after you use a traversal skill. So this used to only be something that was found in the Skeleton Mage skill tree. But now you could use this on a Primalist. You could use this on a... minion builds. Primalist? Anyone else? Primalist? You could use this on a Primalist. Or you could not spec into the Skelly Mage skill tree. Synergy. Okay. Minion builds. These experimental affixes can be rolled exalted. So they have normal tiers. You could have a tier 1 experimental affix, a tier 5, a tier 7 experimental affix as well. As well as the potential to craft other affixes that roll exalted. That means, yes, you can get a unique item, a legendary item, using experimental affixes. So if I go out there and I find a pair of Frostbite gauntlets, I can get my Frostbite gauntlets with a experimental affix on them. If I get, what are they called? Foot of the Mountain, the Foot of the Mountain unique boots with 1 LP, I could have Foot of the Mountain with minions teleport along with you. Phone. All right. I'm going to go hammer my phone on the ground. Let's keep going. At higher levels, you may also find a very special crafting item dropped by an Exiled Mage, a Rune of Research. So we have 2 things here. I'm surprised they only mention one of those, and then they show you both down here, but whatever. So there's 2 new sources of crafting in Last Epoch. Let's talk about the first one here. Successfully defeating an Exiled Mage above level 70 has a chance to drop a Rune of Research. This rune will seal an experimental affix on an experimental item. This obeys normal sealed affixes rules in that you can only have 1 sealed affix. So you can't have multiple sealed affixes, you can only have 1 sealed affix. But this rune, unlike a Glyph of Despair, allows you to seal exactly that experimental affix, and only that experimental affix. So the affix is moved, leaving its old one. Anything else there? Cannot be modified. When experimental affix is sealed, you have a chance to gain a... Yeah, here we go. When an experimental affix is sealed, there's some small text here. Let's zoom in. You have a chance to gain a Glyph of Insight. This chance is higher for items with higher tier affixes, but cannot exceed 45%. So if you want to get a Glyph of Insight, based off of the information we have right now, it definitely seems like you want to be using a Rune of Research to seal an experimental affix on an item that has a bunch of tiers of affixes, 15, 16, 17. Let's keep going. What the hell is a Glyph of Insight? When sealing an experimental affix through the use of a Rune of Research, you have a chance to receive a particularly powerful crafting item, a Glyph of Insight. When this glyph is used to upgrade a normal affix, it will change that normal affix into an experimental affix. This process is deterministic based on the item, which means if you use it on gloves, you'll get an experimental glove affix. If you use it on boots, you get an experimental boot prefix or suffix, depending on which one you're upgrading. So let's zoom in on this and read it. A Glyph of Insight changes a prefix into an experimental one. It only works on glove belt boots because that's where experimental affixes roll. Experimental affixes do not roll anywhere else. The exact experimental affix it becomes and its tier are determined by the properties on the item. I assume that upgrading a tier 1 normal modifier with a Glyph of Insight will result in a tier 2 experimental. I don't know if that's true. I assume that, but I don't actually know. So like upgrading a tier 4 to a tier 5 would give you a tier 5 experimental affix, I think. Yet to be determined. Can you seal a tier 5 or higher experimental affix? You should not be able to because you can't craft those. So I think if you want to seal an experimental affix, you probably have to seal a tier 4 or lower. But frankly, I don't know. So that's an excellent question. We'll find out soon, okay? The question in chat was, can you seal a tier 5 or higher experimental affix? I assume no, but like, let's keep going. This means that if you have 2 of the exact same item, it will always produce the same experimental affix. If you have 2 of the exact same item, that's not particularly relevant because if you mirror an item, it goes down to 0 fortune potential. But if you're doing the duping stuff from, I say duping and everybody sits up in their seat. If you do the duping stuff in the Lightless Arbor, where it duplicates all items that are in a box, then this text would be relevant to you. That's interesting. It's literally deterministic. Determining what exactly an item needs. Determining what exactly an item needs for each possible experimental affix, however, is something that may require a bit of experimentation. Whoa, hold up. Wait. You bet within 3 days it's data mined? It'll probably be data mined within 3 days. I wonder if like upgrading cooldown always gives you like the cooldown thing. Or like upgrading hybrid health always gives you like the hybrid health thing. Okay, I'm listening. If it weren't data mined, it'd be way more interesting. Data mining like kinda ruins the mysticism of things like this. But in any case, this is very exciting. I'm kind of into it. Let's keep going. We have another example here. We have something called Ward Decay Threshold. This is the very first time that we've seen these words pop up in the world of Last Epoch. Ward Decay Threshold, it means that your ward will not decay below that point. I know that sounds obvious, but Ward decay threshold is an excellent way of boosting up how much ward you're going to get. Normally, your ward decay threshold is 0, so every time you're getting ward per second or ward on kill, your ward decay, which is it's exponential, right? It starts decaying all the way back toward 0. So your decay is going to be less based on how much ward decay threshold you have, and you'll be able to generate more ward. I'm sure we could come up with a math formula for this. It's strong. It's useless. It's definitely not useless. It helps you get much bigger ward numbers. It is a stronger value than you think it is. All right. The end of this here, there's one little teaser here for what's happening tomorrow. It said that's all for pre-patch blog post. Hope you enjoy what's going on. Join us again tomorrow if we're looking to one-shot caches. We have one-shot caches here, lost caches, and some general improvements for monolith echoes. So these, like most of these things, I know what they are. I'm excited to tell you what these are, but I can't tell you what they are yet. So I'm excited to see this. When I say, I'm going to scroll back up because Twitch chat hates it. Twitch chat says like ward decay threshold is bad. First of all, it's a hybrid affix. So like you're also getting some ward gain on kill. Yeah. Based on some screenshots that I've seen, it definitely seems like you're going to get like, you know, another 1,000 threshold or another 1,000 ward out of it. Not from like the plus 43 here, but I like it. Hey, let's not hate on all of the new experimental affixes just because you saw them once. I think that they're pretty cool. So that does it for yesterday's blog post, teasing a handful of these unique items, and today's blog post describing what the Exiled Mage encounter really is and what the crafting with the Rune of Research, giving you a chance to find a Glyph of Insight, are going to be as well. So we'll keep making these videos, going over these blog posts, because I think they're a lot of fun to talk about. If you want to watch live, like the people here are right now, you can watch twitch.tv/PayThePig, where September is currently going on, and we had some subs going on right there. So I'm going to go thank them. And I'll see you next time.